I'm sure many of you have seen, IndiCube offices all around Bangalore, so I don't need to introduce Rishi and the fact that he founded this venture a decade ago. But I have to ask you first, do you work from office or do you work from home?
I certainly work from office 5 days a week.
Five days a week?
Absolutely.
But tell us about how work from office has evolved post-pandemic. Because, we've noticed there's this constant tug of war. And tech CEOs I speak to say it's easier to bring employees to work in Mumbai or Delhi compared to Bangalore. Do you observe a similar pattern?
So you are so right on that, Chandra, that there is a tug of war. The employers want people to come to office. Employees don't want to come to office.
Okay, one second. How many of you work from office? Oh my God. Okay, this is a good number. How many of you work from home? How many of you want to work from home? Okay. How many of you want to work from office thrice a week?
Yes.
Okay, that's an interesting...
Yes. So I think the last one answered the where we are headed. So what is happening is that, see, this whole question post-COVID that who, when, where, how is a very pertinent question. And people say it's a question to be handled by the admin of the companies. I say it's a HR question. Nobody has still figured out very clearly that who will come to office, when they will come to office, where they will come to office, how they will come to office. It's still an evolving question that we see is there today. But by and large, what has happened is where things are settling down is 3 days a week is what we are finding. And the office is the platform where companies are looking at managing their work. So it's an office-based environment, and with work from home being the perk. And also we are finding that different companies, different functions within companies. So I think this COVID, post-COVID, work from home, hybrid has led to a lot of, I will say, you can call it a fragmentation of the culture in companies. Today, a finance team may be required to come 5 days a week because they have a lot of documents to handle. Most of the companies' technology team is the God gives to mankind, which typically doesn't show up even once a week. So which was not the case earlier. So within the same company, sitting on the same floor, you see different teams behaving differently and different cultures also coming up. But net, I think office is here to stay. That's how we see it here.
Oh, wow. I was hoping you would say hybrid is here to stay, but you're saying office is here to stay.
Hybrid, you're so right on that. It's hybrid, and again, it varies from industry and function.
Yeah. Right. The other thing I wanted to understand from you, Rishi, is, when we look at the patterns on owned facilities versus leased, for instance, Cognizant said last year that it's going to give up all of its owned campuses, and they have done that in Tamil Nadu to a big extent. And startups, on the other hand, are also in a cost-cutting mode. So they are giving up owned spaces. They're trying to work out of co-working spaces to save on costs because profitability has become very important to them. Now, you service both these cohorts. You service the large tech companies and you service the likes of Myntra, Unacademy, and so on. How has this impacted, the demand trends that you are seeing? Has it been good for you because people want flexibility? Or, what patterns are you seeing in terms of demand? So,
see, the office spaces post-COVID have gone a massive disruption. Like, see, if you look at somebody like me who came 25 years back to Bangalore, so we went 2,000 miles where work was. Today, work is going where people are. So I think that is a big shift. And what it has led to a lot of intra-city offices. For example, if you have an office in Electronic City, you can't expect somebody living in Hebbal to any longer come and work for you. People will not commute more than typically an hour. So intra-city, intercity, and when we talk about intercity, we are not talking only on tier 1s, the emergence of tier 2s. At least there are 15 tier 2 cities, mostly the state capitals, which are looking very, very promising from that perspective. So I think that is which is happening. Now, if you look at different segments, before COVID, managed office was mostly, I will say, a startup phenomena. Typically, we were catering to companies who were looking at 100 seats, 200 seats kind of clients, and mostly late-stage venture-funded companies or unicorns, some of them you name. But what we are seeing post-COVID, a lot of Indian companies are picking up spaces. A company like Air India is our customer, and a large customer in Chennai.
Which one?
Air India.
Okay.
Now, Air India, you can imagine the average age of people in Air India is 50 to 53 years.
Wow.
So even those kind of companies, or you look at company like Mahindra Logistics, Ultratech Cement, So that is a massive addition that has happened. And if you look at a lot of mid-cap IT companies, take the example of, say, a company
Persistent,
like...
Mindtree.
Yeah, Mindtree kind of. You see, those companies were not present in many cities. TCS, Infosys, Wipro, the big five were pretty much present in all big cities. So we are seeing a lot of growth coming from these companies. A company like Persistent, which was, say, headquartered in Pune, they are now expanding their bases in Bangalore, or Mindtree doing the other way, kind of a thing. So massive growth is happening in the IT services. For very large occupiers, it's a strategy of blending. So for example, if you talk about the NASSCOM top 10 or 15, if they had 15-20 million square feet of portfolio, now they are saying 10 to 20% of that will be flex. So different companies are latching on to flex for different purposes, but it has become, I will say, much more broad-based. Startup, Indian companies, IT services, GCCs, the whole spectrum got added to...
Yeah, in fact, I was going to ask you about GCCs because they've more than made up for the gap we saw in IT hiring, right? And I think JP Morgan in Bangalore has over 50,000 employees, if I'm not wrong. So where will the next wave of growth for you come from? Will it be IT, GCCs, startups, some of these older enterprises that you said, right? Mahindra Logistics, Ultratech, who you wouldn't normally associate with a co-working space?
Yeah. So I think, Chandra, this is more cyclic. If startups were calling the shots till the funding winter started, they are on a low certainly. Indian companies are on a high. Because I'm talking about the typical old economy Indian companies, because the Indian economy is doing well, and these companies are on a ramp-up phase. GCC certainly are doing very well. IT services is doing well. Equally, you can say broadly it's a 25% each mix. Startups, GCCs, Indian IT services companies, and the Indian companies. These four brackets, if you look at, maybe sometime they may become 30%, sometime may become 20%. So it's quite democratized now. And then there is a city pivot as well. If you go to Bombay, obviously the Indian companies will have a very large pivot. When you come to a place like Bangalore, startups have a much larger share in that.
Does this also have to do with the traffic situation in each city, the way they respond to work from office and hybrid?
So, see, the concept where it is going is walk to work, if you ask me. As distributed offices are coming, companies are clearly figuring out at which pin codes their employees are living, and what's the typical carbon footprint they have, what's the average commuting time they have. In fact, recently we had 2 undergrad from Princeton, and we worked on a very detailed AI-based project where if a company provides us data of, say, 500 employees, if they are married, if they have their own house, if they have children, what school the children goes and all that, then we can quite accurately predict that which is the right place for you to open the office.
Wow.
Yes, and how much commuting time will be there for women, how much for men, like that, and how the overall footprint will change. If people are using 2-wheelers, 4-wheelers, they are closer to metro. So metro is another very big disruption. If you look at Bangalore, 20 years back, everybody wanted to go to MG Road.
Yeah.
Right? 10 years back, nobody wanted to go to MG Road because metro was getting constructed. Now again, MG Road is back in fashion. You look at the way they have done the Church Street. And MG Road is reviving very, very fast. The rentals in MG Road have gone up, around CBD have gone up by 50% in the last 2 years. Because metro connectivity is coming up. So one big factor in India that is disrupting the workplaces is the metro. Sooner or later, all urban cities in India will see metro coming in. And in all workspaces or office spaces which are in the 1 to 2 kilometer radius of metro are again coming back in fashion. So that is how we see that city centers are getting redeveloped as well over there.
Right. Earlier when we were speaking, you told me that the office capacity or absorption capacity in Bangalore is much higher than Mumbai and Delhi. And just a few days ago, we reported on Money Control that Zepto's moving lock, stock and barrel to Bangalore, some 800 employees. So people already expect, rentals in Sarjapur and Bellandur to shoot up. So tell us about how, this is shaping up, the office.
So if you look at India absorbs about 40 to 42 million square feet of office space every year. This is a net absorption. And total grade A stock of office space in India is about 800 million. Now this 42 million is absolutely comparable to US. Now think about how many places you can think that India will be comparable to US. And just the Manhattan has 700 million square feet of space. So on an aggregate, India is nothing. But on a growth rate, India is at par with US. So that's very big data point. Bangalore is the real estate capital of the world.
Wow.
As
Real
a
estate capital
city,
of
yes,
the world.
As a city, we absorb the maximum amount of real estate any city absorbs in the world. Bangalore between 2018 absorbed 56 million square feet of office space. Shanghai was about 32 million. Bangalore is 14 million, and Delhi NCR is 5 million. Bombay is 5 million. Hyderabad is 7 to 8 million. So you can, and what differentiates India from the only other city in the Asia Pacific is Manila, which is 10 million plus, thanks to the BPO industry and all. So what is differentiated India is the IT growth, massively.
But why do you think Bangalore is still on top? You know, despite the fact that every day people are complaining about roads, traffic, water. I mean, they need a new reason to complain about how broken, you know, the city is in terms of infra. But that doesn't come in the way of this.
That doesn't. You look at today, with the exception of none, large VCs whose head office is not Bangalore. 10 years back, it was a 40-40-20 mix. 40% was Bangalore, 20% was Delhi, 40% was Bombay. Now you see there is not a single large VC whose head office is not Bangalore. Everybody has moved their office to Bangalore.
Yeah, I think elevation, everyone
Look at
has
that,
moved.
yeah. And you look at category by category, the top two companies. If you talk 25 years back, it was Infosys, Wipro. Then we look at the Flipkart, the Amazon kind of a thing. So if you look at any category, invariably out of the top two, one has been Bangalore. So
Yeah.
startups, definitely Bangalore is leader by magnitude. You look at the amount of aviation companies. We had the space session here. Somebody was telling that just because of the Tejas aircraft, there have been 8,000 companies that have got incorporated in Bangalore itself. So imagine the aerospace cluster, which is not in the limelight.
And Boeing also has a huge presence
you look
in
at,
this.
and we don't talk about garments. Just look at how many people Bangalore employ in garments. More than 5 lakh people are employed in the garment sector just in Bangalore. There is hardly any buying house in the world, any brand in the world which doesn't have a buying house in Bangalore. So Bangalore has many things like Biocon has a head office, then the number of consulates that are opening up in Bangalore now. So I think, and today, no surprises, Bangalore is the second busiest airport in India. It has
Right.
overtaken Bombay. And who could have imagined this 10 years back? So I think Bangalore has, and that is where you see it's very democratized. Bangalore is the last city which goes down when the markets fall, as far as real estate is concerned, both residential, commercial, and the first city to come back.
Right. I think we're running out of time, so very quick questions, Rishi. One is, you know, one of your peers, Office, recently listed on the stock market. You count Westbridge as an investor. Do you have IPO ambitions from a 3 to 5 year view?
So I can say about the sector in this that this is
Because
one.
we are seeing a lot
Yeah.
of players coming in co-work.
See, this is a very unique sector. Think about it in the new economy. Where can we talk about 5 companies or more than 5 companies or even 10 companies hopefully will do IPO in the next 2 to 3 years? I can't think of any other category. You look at most of the players, I think all top 10 players, the promoters or the Indians have more than 50% equity. Otherwise, we are talking about ventures today where the Indians or the promoters have 5%, 10% equity. So I think what has worked for this sector very well, that mad money did not came in this. Hopefully just before COVID happened at the right time to that extent. And before that, one of the biggest guys in our space in the world went bust and they were trying to do IPO. I think that all that actually, if you ask me, helped that the sector did not attracted mad money. As a result, it did not become a winner takes it all business, and most of the players are profitable in our space. And I certainly see that in next, not even 5 years, I will say, even 3 years, hopefully you will see 5 to 7 IPOs in our space.
Including IndiQ.
Hopefully.
On that note, time up. Thank you very much, Rishi.
Thank you.
Very good insights.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Chandra.
very
Thank you.
much.